As we get started today, I have some housekeeping announcements and some words of welcome for us. And before I kind of dive into what we're going to have and be expecting today, um, just want to kind of acknowledge and start by opening up this space and saying that the way that we show up here today isn't empty of the crisis and the world in which we live. Every single part of you gets to show up in this space, whether you're experiencing despair about this election cycle or even a difficulty in knowing whether you should take time this afternoon to be here instead of being somewhere else. Anxiety about our collapsing climate, worry about people that we love who are right now navigating floodwaters down in the South, whether in rescue or in need, concern about violence and bombs and genocides and injustices and hopelessness. There's a lot to hold, my friends. And I hope that you will leave today feeling a little less alone in carrying that. Spaces like this can never replace the importance of building our localized community relationships. And I think that's a theme we'll return to over and over again today. But it is my hope that spaces like these, when we convene together across our different regions and spaces and places and identities, that we feel connected and inspired and resourced as we continue in the imperative work of healing ourselves, each other, and the entire world. It is my personal hope for you that you would leave with a knowledge deep in your bones that we, the people, have what it takes to win justice, to win love, to win right relationship, to win forgiveness, to win futures, to win flourishing for every single one of us. The leaves that are beginning to fall around us as we move into the autumn season don't indicate that the trees have ceased their function, because seasons and cycles are just part of this fragile world that we live in. Falling leaves become wise old friends, whispering lessons our bodies remember, but our minds have maybe often forgot. There is time enough for everything, and all change starts in the seed, in the small, buried in the dirt, pure potential, energy, and rebirth. I hope you hear it whisper with me, friends, that our work is not done, not in the slightest, and not yet. We're going to ask big questions today about our food systems and ecosystems and agriculture and how all of those things tie into each other. And while we move into that space, I want to take a moment to recognize and acknowledge and ask ourselves, what does it mean to live on these lands that were once stewarded by Indigenous ancestors before us? Land remembers, and our bodies remember. And so I want to begin today acknowledging that even though we come and gather from our various regions, Pennsylvania and beyond, for those of you who are not Pennsylvania based, that all land is Indigenous land. And so if you do know the name of the Indigenous peoples that stewarded the lands on which you live now, I invite you to share that into the chat so we can hear where you're joining us from today. And I have also, I see, thank you, Ty, she shared a link into the chat where you can, if you don't know what Indigenous lands you are sojourning on, you can use that link to find out real quick. We recently ratified our very first here at PEIPL Diversity, Equity, Justice, Inclusion Statement, and I'm going to share a little bit more about that process in a second. But for now, I want to share the section that we authored that relates to Indigenous peoples and how PEIPL is working to restore a right relationship with Indigenous communities here in this space. We acknowledge Indigenous peoples who were forcibly removed from the lands of so-called Pennsylvania through brutal acts of violence and colonization. We recognize their loving stewardship of these lands and acknowledge the value of Indigenous ways and wisdom in our environmental and our climate work. We acknowledge the ongoing presence of Indigenous peoples on these lands to this day and their efforts for recognition, especially through the Land Back movement. I want to invite us into a few moments of silence in gratitude, in remembrance, and in present solidarity with our Indigenous siblings, and as a way to soak in all of the wisdom and important lessons and history and stories that we've heard so far today. Thank you, friends. A few words of housekeeping for now. Everybody here in this space has the power to unmute yourself, and hopefully at some point this afternoon you will engage in conversation with someone. We are asking, though, that when we're in these big main spaces, everybody keep yourself muted. And if you are needing to move around, please do whatever you need to do. If you need to find a new spot or stretch or whatever, just pop your camera off so that we don't all take a ride with you. That would be great. Thanks so much for helping us with that. There is a booklet that has been put together to guide your experience today. A link to that was shared in the chat earlier, and I'm sure we'll continue to pop it in throughout the day. There's also a QR code on the slides that we'll have up in the next break. So feel free to utilize that as a resource, not just today, but beyond today, if you're wanting to do follow-up or learn more about some of the things we're talking about. We also have an incredible PIPL team that's helping to moderate the chat and lead so much of what's happening today. So a big thank you to Vincent and Ariel, who are leading the charge with some of our tech stuff today. And so if you need any support, they are a great, you can just reach out in the chat and let them know what you need, and they will be very happy to assist you. Speaking of the rest of the team, I would invite our current board members and current staff team to wave hello so folks in the room can see who you are. Thanks for being here. I also know that we have folks who have historically served in leadership positions with PIPL, so if that is you, if you're former board or former staff or any of those categories, feel free to also give a wave and let folks know that you're here. Thank you for all the work that you're doing and have done in the past that we're building a legacy upon. Please utilize the chat as a place to share, reflect, ask questions. I'm also encouraging you to grab pen and paper if you don't already have that nearby. Hopefully we're going to give you at least something today that you're going to want to walk away with and remember. So whether it's a digital device or some kind of handwritten, make sure you have something close by to take care of that. All right, I think that's everything for house announcements, at least for right now. So right now I'm going to invite our interim board president, Sarah, to share a few words of welcome and hello with us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you and welcome to all of you who are joining here today, this afternoon, for our 2024 annual convening. It is so lovely to have this ability to gather together with folks from across the state, all in one convenient location. But before I share more about myself and a few board highlights, I wanted to echo the thanks to Kay and their amazing team, Ariel, Renica, Ruth, Ty, and Vincent. Running a conference is a ton of work, especially and including online events. They have done a ton of work to bring you 14 live guest speakers all in this one convenient location. And they are making it look so effortless right now. And as someone who has run conferences myself, it is truly no small feat. So a huge thank you to all of the behind the scenes work to make today so successful. And I'm going to find my reactions here and put a little clap. So thank you. So a little bit more about myself. My name is Sarah Kleintab-Lowe. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the current interim president of the PA-IPL board. I'm currently located in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, and my career is focused on building energy efficiency and renewable energy as a primary way to tackle our climate crisis. And I'm currently rooted in the Episcopal faith tradition. So I have 4 quick updates, looking backwards and looking forwards. So looking back, one of our great accomplishments that just came out of our time in August is that we had a fantastic board and staff retreat at the beautiful and peaceful Pendle Hill Retreat and Conference Center in Wallingford, PA. And we dedicated most of our time together to explore, deepen, and solidify our commitment to the work of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. So as Kay has shared, I'm so pleased to share that we have a major outcome was the ratification of a new DEIJ statement for PA-IPL. So looking forward, my second update is with this DEIJ statement ratified. We're excited to share that we'll be launching a strategic planning process starting in 2025, but really getting into the depth of it in 2026. So this is a really exciting time for PA-IPL and a crucial inflection point as we're looking to the future of this organization. So that brings me to my third point, our ask. This winter, 2024, we will be facing a major board transition due to term limits. So we are looking for 6 to 10 new persons of faith and conscience to help lead PAIPL to take bold and just action on climate change. The very basics about board expectations is that folks serve 3-year terms, and they help ensure the organization is well run and consistent with our mission, oversee policy and direction, support PAIPL programming, help to secure resources, and help promote PAIPL across the state. So if you or someone you know would be interested in joining us, I would love to hear from you. As listed in the annual convening booklet, you can send me an email to learn more and or to officially nominate yourself or another. My email address is listed there for easy access. We welcome self-nominations and leads on anyone you think may have the passion and skill to join at this exciting time. We'll also have a no pressure online meet and greet with all folks who are interested later this fall, and we'll schedule that around at a time that works for all who are interested. And finally, my fourth piece, we're also in the works on planning 3 in-person gatherings that will be open to all in November and December to share all of PAIPL's amazing accomplishments, thank and celebrate the contributions of current and past board members, and to get to know and answer any questions of potential interested board members. So please save the dates. Tuesday, November 12th in Philadelphia. All details are coming, but at least marking this on your calendars. Thursday, November 21st in Pittsburgh. And we'll also have a gathering in Lancaster, a date to be determined. We'll get more details out to you all through our newsletter, which is coming out. All those details will be coming out shortly. And we'd love to see all of you here today at one or more of these in-person events. So I'll close by thanking also our current board members in alphabetical order: Phyllis Bloomberg, Reverend Stacy Chavez, Vice President and a facilitator for today's final keynote, Bill Cousins, our treasurer, Tanya Kevorkian, Vanessa Lowe, and Kelly Yagatich. Thank you all for your dedication and service. It's truly a pleasure working with you all. So without further ado, thank you all again for joining today, and I'll pass it back to Kay.
Thank you, Sarah. There are lots of exciting things happening. So thank you for orienting us to a few. And I really hope that you'll take advantage of the in-person opportunities to join us. I know we've been trying to create this balance between where do we do our virtual programming and convening people across all of the regions where we're working, but how do we also create in-person opportunities for connection? So we hear you, and I hope that you'll come and join us at those as we move towards the end of the year together. As Sarah alluded to, and as I shared before, the PAIPL team and board, we did spend time at Pendle Hill earlier this month. We were dreaming about the future, identifying our strategic needs, and also really took a lot of time to ground further in our commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. And so I want to take a brief moment just to walk you through the statement that we have put together. There'll be lots more to share about it in the future, but I wanted to kind of give us a brief walkthrough now. And I also think I just cited Francisco in this little space with us today, who's here on behalf of Pendle Hill. So feel free to wave and say hi to everyone so everyone can see where you are. Pendle Hill is a photovoltaic sponsor of the conference and has been a wonderful partner and supporter of PAIPL for many years. So as an organization, and many of you know this because you've been around even longer than I have, we have a rich history of leading interfaith climate action in the state, and much of our work has touched and already been informed by deep commitments to equity and justice and environmental justice particularly. We have been a signatory to the Jemez Principles for Environmental Organizing for a number of years, and if you've ever attended a formal conference, you know that they usually are highlighted on the back of the booklet. But collectively as an organization, we believed that we wanted to go further. And so together we worked to author a statement that really spoke to what is our theory of change, or how are we orienting in our work and our commitment to environmental justice. I'm also particularly grateful to Amber Sessoms of Natural Inclination for all of the guidance and support she has provided to us in this process. The link was shared in the chat, and so you're welcome to go and check it out on your own time. And perhaps you'll also be able to tell by the end of the day today, or even by how we got started, that the way that we are even orienting in space today is informed by the commitments that we have articulated in this statement. So the statement begins with a few acknowledgments, which include Indigenous peoples, their stewardship of the lands of so-called Pennsylvania, and support for the Land Back movement. The statement includes an acknowledgement of African American peoples, specifically naming the systemic abuses that we heard in the keynote today, including enslavement, segregation, redlining, carceral systems, and racism. We also acknowledge that there are disproportionate impacts of climate change on women, communities of color, children and youth, disabled, the poor, and LGBTQIA plus communities. This also includes, and should not forget, our island communities in the global south, along with an acknowledgement of there being a correlation between continuing displacement of people and refugee populations with changing weather patterns. We also, in this statement, acknowledge the role of both colonization and militarization as leading causes of the manufactured climate crisis. The statement then goes on to highlight our commitment to building a network that is reflective and inclusive of faith and spirituality landscape right here in Pennsylvania. It explicitly names the wrongs of hateful ideologies such as Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, as well as a total rejection of Christian nationalism. We believe that all of these are hindrances to the building of beloved and multi-faith community. Our statement names Article 27 in the Pennsylvania Constitution, which relates to the rights of all to a healthy and safe environment, along with naming public natural resources as the property of all people in Pennsylvania. We acknowledge that this is an aspiration that our Commonwealth has fallen short of meeting for many vulnerable communities. And so as an organization, we commit to the work of holding governance and corporate structures accountable for this. We reaffirmed our signatory to the Hermes Principles for Organizing, as well as to the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, which, if you are based here in the city of Philadelphia, you may have seen in the news this week that the city of Philadelphia, thanks to the tireless efforts of activists here, became a signatory to that non-proliferation treaty this week, which was very exciting news. We are also, in this statement, affirming our signatory to the following additional platforms. The four that we've affirmed to are the principles of environmental justice as outlined by the first National People of Color Environmental Leadership Summit in 1991. This isn't a new conversation. The Equitable and Just National Climate Platform, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and the Declaration on Climate Change of the 2015 Parliament of the World's Religions. Maybe you're asking, what are those statements? I'm not going to dive into them right here and now today, but over the course of the next couple months, you will start to see us provide some resources and some training in these different statements that we've signed on to, and explaining a little bit more about how and why PIPL believes that these are aligned with our work here locally in Pennsylvania. The final two paragraphs of the statement outline how we are going to operationalize these commitments. If you've ever been involved in organizational leadership and structures, or even as a volunteer, you know that keeping commitments takes time and resources. So we want to be transparent about that this is going to be a learning and a growing process for us. But we do want to keep a laser focus as we continue to move towards this vision. We are really excited to continue unpacking this statement with you and share resources for learning engagement as we all collectively, both us as an organization and you all as a network, to this expansive moral call that we have of loving neighbors and loving the world. For me personally, it feels important to name that the journey for us to get here and have a first public statement has been long. And while it is an important step, I don't think it's one that necessarily deserves accolades. I truly believe that this work should be normalized and expected, especially in spaces that are committed to doing interfaith movement work. PIPL is committing to this work under Sarah and I's leadership, not because we are extraordinary, but because it is the right and the ordinary thing to do. I really believe that our imaginations have been diminished by a world that makes us believe that it's okay for some people and some parts of the planet to be disposable. And in this statement and with this commitment, we recount that by committing to the work of building community that is loving, honest, and just. So I'm really grateful that you're on this journey with us. I'm really excited and looking forward to being part of this conversation. And you're always welcome to send me an email if you have questions as we continue to build this muscle of ours together. So now at this time, I'm going to briefly invite Rainika to share a quick update about our civic engagement campaign. And then following that, I'll have Ty share briefly about our watershed work. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am just going to share my screen really quickly so that I can present to you because I do have some slides. All right. And can everybody just see that first slide? Awesome. All right, well, I'm Rainika Weimer, and I am the Advocacy and Outreach Manager at PAIPL. And I'm just going to take a few minutes to share with you our civic engagement campaign that we've been working on for the past few months, as well as some resources and our partners in this work. And when I'm done sharing, I'm going to drop some links in the chat that cover everything I've talked about while sharing about the civic engagement campaign. So PAIPL is currently running a nonpartisan civic engagement campaign with the broad goals of voter registration, voter education, and facilitating dialogue at the intersection of faith and civic engagement. Our voter registration campaign will continue through October 21st, which is the last day to register to vote in Pennsylvania and/or change your registration, so mark your calendars. And the entire campaign will continue through Election Day, but will end right after. This campaign is built in partnership with National Interfaith Power and Light, of which we are the Pennsylvania state affiliate. We have been tabling and canvassing to register new voters since March. PAIPL does work in partnership with PA Voice to register new voters. If you're not familiar, PA Voice is a table of coalition partners who are working to coordinate voter registration and education efforts, and which self-describes as a partnership of nonpartisan organizations who are working across race, class, and culture to expand civic participation, make voting easier, and secure equitable representation in state government. So our partnership with PA Voice has allowed us to register several people to vote, and they also provide us with the necessary security and quality control that is necessary to accomplish this. PAIPL is also happy to help facilitate a voter registration event at your congregation, house of worship, or any place where your community gathers. Just for some clarity, voter registration is done through an app called PA Vote for Change. PAIPL has its own unique registration link, which I will drop in the chat later. Anyone can click this link and register to vote. So I encourage you to copy it down and share it with friends and family who might need to register. PA Vote for Change simplifies the process and is very secure. We don't store any personal information. And if you're interested in conducting a voter registration drive, you can contact myself or Tyler Fowler. I'll drop our emails, and it's best that you contact Tyler if you're in Southeast PA and myself if you're in Southwest PA. Other big piece of this campaign is not just voter registration, but also voter education. So I'd like to share a really special resource with you called Faith in Public Life. This resource was created across several months by PAIPL staff and fellows to guide our civic engagement work. It was first conceived as a booklet that would help us have some really big and tough conversations about the civic process this year, and ultimately became a much bigger project. This is a container for reflection, conversation, and connection at the intersection of faith and civic engagement. This resource is available for download on our website. You can see the link in the presentation right here, and I'll also share it with you in the chat. Please feel free to share far and wide. And again, you can find this information on our website afterward as well. There are several pieces within this resource, and we're hoping that it allows us all to learn together, build community, and we'll talk about what it actually means to be civically engaged. It's all about how one can start to make change by asking hard questions about the community that you live in, whether you're thinking broadly, like your state or country, or narrowing your focus to your own neighborhood. And the first question that we ask is, given our mutual interdependence, how do our faiths call us to live in the world? This also explores the many ways in which our varied faith traditions call us to engage in the civic process, all the ways that that engagement could look. And that's because civic engagement will look different for all of us according to our means. And we'll think about what it means to start from a place of community, bringing ourselves into conversation with individuals who might believe differently than we do. Because interfaith engagement is all about embracing differences and understanding the inherent value that we all have. Many faith communities and traditions feel called to the work of civic engagement, and so the hope is that this resource helps us facilitate dialogue in that space. Additional resources are also available via National Interfaith Power and Light. If you're interested in talking further with your own community or your house of worship about how this intersection functions, and you're looking to start further conversation or deliver a message to your congregation, we're hopeful that these resources can be a huge help, and we welcome you to let us know if these resources were helpful to you. On our website, you can download a resource called A Matter of Faith, which includes message starters, prayers, litanies, and other resources for considering voting through the lens of faith. Your information booths, which is a how-to guide for faith community-based voter information booths, a guide for facilitating congregation-based candidate forums, and a guide called Politics in the Pulpit, which is a guide to rules and regulations on political activity by religious organizations. These resources are all available to you at the link that is in the presentation, peipl.us/faith-in-public-life. You can also find the IPL 2024 voter guide on our website. Again, I'll drop that download link for you. When you look at these resources on our website, you'll notice that you do have to download them to access them. PAIPL does this solely to understand where our impacts are being felt across the state. We do not store any personal identifying information, and downloading these resources is not a commitment. I also want to share with you our wonderful partnerships this year. You're invited to check out some Get Out the Vote opportunities, and we're really, really thankful to our partnering organizations that are working with us this year. Green Faith, some of you may know, is a grassroots international multi-faith climate justice organization that works with active campaigns across the globe. And this year, Green Faith is running a civic engagement campaign titled Vote for Our Sacred Earth. You'll be able to access some postcard writing and phone banking opportunities via Green Faith. So to order those postcards and to receive a virtual phone banking link, those phone banking opportunities take place on Zoom on Thursday evenings. I will drop a link in the chat, which guides you to a Google form that you can use to sign up. If you can, please list PAIPL as a referring organization under the option organization/congregation when you access that form. We are also partnering with Power the Polls this year. If you're not familiar, Power the Polls is a tool that helps people sign up to be poll workers on election day. So if you're interested in finding out how to be a poll worker, you'll get all the information you need when you sign up. Signing up to receive that information, again, is not a commitment. It's just a pathway that gives you access to all of the information you need to find out if you're eligible and to apply. All right, so I'm gonna close out now and stop sharing my screen so that I can drop some links in the chat, which should cover everything I've spoken about today. You can also find all of this information on our website, paipl.us. But thank you for being here. I hope you're taking care of yourself right now, and I'm sending thanks and strength to everybody engaged in the civic process this year.
Thank you, Rainika, for sharing and walking us through that program. And Rainika and Ty have done a wonderful job of building a program that really is meaningful and valuable. And so I hope you all will take advantage of the resources that are compiled and all of the ways that you can be involved as we move through this election season and beyond, because our work doesn't stop in November. Our work is constant until we reach liberation.